tuning in, oh, there we got it. Okay, so if you're just tuning in, we're super excited that you're here. We have our special guests on here tonight. We're going to start with Anna. She is not new to symmetry, but still very, very new in this business. I know Joe has some amazing stats for her. I just want to speak to her heart and just who she is as a person. When Joe and I were looking at getting started with symmetry, I'm like, well, I'm only going to do this if Anna does it with us. And so I kind of twisted her arm and maybe forced her a little bit to like study and get licensed right after us. And I'm so grateful that she did. She has been somebody that like I can literally call and be like, is it okay if I cry? This is a crying moment. She's like, yeah, it's totally fine. She's just that person. She also knows so much about this business. It's crazy in the short amount of time. I'm like, she just knows so much. And it's just really, really impressive to see what she's done here. And so we're super honored, to have her in our agency, along with Lindsay, who we're going to get to too, who's actually part of Anna's base. But Joe, why don't you kind of introduce like all the numbers and all that good stuff?
Let's do Anna by the numbers. This is interesting, Anna. You probably don't have this all thought out.
I'm a little nervous about this.
Started a symmetry August 16th last year, 23. I'll do as a team, as a total team, everyone with you and everyone you've brought on board with you. 134 apps, $143,000 since August of last year. $97,000 of that's on your own pin, which is crazy impressive in such a short amount of time. Even more crazy than that. So 97,000 of that is on your own pin. 66,000 of that's on your own pin in 2024.
That's nuts.
So, yeah,
that's
crazy
nuts.
when you look at the numbers.
A good portion of that is these 8 days. I mean, she's like on fire. Her pin is literally on fire. So, Anna, why don't you just tell us kind of like, what brought you here besides being my best friend and I forced you, but really talk about your story, kind of tell us who you are and all those things.
Yeah. So first of all, hearing those numbers is wildly crazy and super exciting because like starting out here, it's overwhelming, right? And you see people on the leaderboards and sometimes I think it's really easy to wonder if that's possible for you. And I'm here to tell you it is. If I can do it, you can absolutely do this. So thank you guys, number one, for having me on this call. I'm honored. So previous to this, I had been in the direct sales space for about 6.5 years, had a lot of success in my companies, but ultimately I was really burnt out, quite frankly. I was posting on social media all the time, growing teams, having people leave. My paychecks were going like this and this. And finally they were kind of going just like this. And I was like, I need something that's stable and I know my work ethic and I know what I bring to the table, but I don't want to rely on other people in order to make what I want to make. And so ultimately, Joe had started looking at this, speaking with Jim, and Jill started looking with him, and Jill and I were talking, and I was like, I mean, if you guys are doing this, like I'm doing this with you, you're not, I'm all in with you guys. So started taking a look at this, and the things that really led me here, number one, is the opportunity to have true ownership over your business. Knowing that I can sign papers and own my agency and I can will that to my kids. That's a big deal. Number two is knowing that I don't have to depend on recruiting just anybody or recruiting for that matter to make a full-time income and above. I know my worth. I know what I'm capable of making. And I know that that's not going to be overnight here, but I know when I look a year, 2 years, 3 years, the amount of money that is possible here blows my mind. Jim has actually sent me what he makes, and I'm like, all right, give me 3 years, I'll be there too, right? So I think that's really exciting. So I started here, I think I wrote a policy on myself at the end of August, and then I started writing for clients in September. And my start was not quick and it was not easy. I think my 4th week here is when I wrote my first policy on a lead. I did not have a lot of warm market people to write on. And so I did not, depend on that for income. I was really in the leads and following the system, which was buying leads on a weekly basis, investing in my business, and knowing that that might not return right away, but knowing ultimately that once I got through that learning curve, I was going to be making money and good money at that. So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Are you
I
sure
love
that
that.
Jill
And-
didn't make you? Are you sure Jill didn't make you do this with us, or did you kind of
Pretty
willingly?
much.
I mean, kind of, but when your best friend tells you to do something and you trust her, and listen, Jill says jump off a cliff, I'm gonna jump. She says have the gorilla punch you in the face, I'm gonna.
We're gonna do that next. No. So Anna, I think you even took off a little bit faster than even what you're giving yourself credit for, because you plugged in immediately and really started writing policies on leads immediately. And one of the things that struck me, because I remember telling Joe, I would get leads and they'd be like 70. And I'm like, what can I can't help this person. They're 70 years old or they're, whatever. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And Anna's just over here writing policies for them and protecting them. And I'm like, what? I got to figure this out. Like, what is she doing? And so it was so cool to see, who should be the student and the teacher. And she comes in and starts, just really kind of paving a way and helping even who's supposed to be her mentors, like look at things differently and look at clients differently. And so one of the things that I've just really admired about you is that you approach your clients on the phone so special and so different. Can you kind of talk about your approach on the phone with your clients?
Yeah.
Real quick, before you hold on, Anna, before you jump into that, when you say Jill, when you say mentors, literally we were a month before her, so it's not like we knew a ton. But I also remember making fun of, joking with Anna. It's like, are you going down to the bingo place and getting all these people and writing them policies? Because that's what it was, literally. I remember saying that too.
Yeah.
And
it was awesome.
Took off.
Well, I think number one is I look at people and I look at their needs. And I think if you have not read The Latte Factor, that is a book that I highly recommend for anybody on this call. It talks a lot about, how people don't think that they have the money for things, but ultimately they really do. And it's a matter of seeing the value of what you are putting your money into. And I know that a 70-year-old that does not have coverage, that has, that might have a mortgage or has a significant other. In fact, right before this Zoom, I was speaking with a client about some policies for him. He's 58, so he's not 70, but they don't have anything in place. He's the only one that brings in income and they just bought a home. And if he were to pass away, his wife is in serious trouble, right? And so we're talking about the reality of that. Now, that's not a fun conversation, but it's important, right? So I always stress to my clients, I know that this might not be the most fun conversation for you. I'm here to make this the most simple conversation so that we can make sure that you get this coverage in place and that you can set this aside, know that this payment's going out monthly, and then you can just be done with it, right? But my job is to make this simple for you. And so I think, honestly, you guys, I think I was just kind of, I didn't think when I came in, oh, I have to try and get the premiums down to $70 a month or $90 a month or $50. I just came in and I was like, if it's $200, that's how much it is. That's just the reality of it. And I didn't assign a emotion to that. I just spoke it as fact. And I think for clients, honestly, I mean, you'll hear from Lindsay in a little bit, but she sold an IUL to somebody just yesterday and their premiums are over $500 on a monthly basis and they didn't blink an eye. Why? Because that investment is important to them. So don't ever think about somebody's age and a $200 or $300 premium as like, oh, I need to make sure I have smaller options so that they can afford it. you don't know what they can afford and you don't know what's important to them. And ultimately, if they're going to be putting their money into something, I would put my money into this. I would protect my family.
Yeah, and I think
So
that's
good.
great. I mean, it's amazing. And we've said it, I know amongst the four of us talking too, is you can't sell to your budget. I mean, if you think $400 is too expensive, there's no way you're going to be able to sell that. So you can't sell to your budget if you think a certain amount's expensive. You just got to keep moving.
Yeah.
Especially if it might be the right product for them and it's $400 and they're okay with it and it's exactly what they need. And we let those, I love it. You said, don't sign your emotions to the monthly premium, like huge. And how many, I mean, put a 2 in the chat if you've ever been guilty of putting emotions when you're talking to somebody like, oh my gosh, I'm sweating just trying to think about how I'm going to tell them. And you say it. For one thing I really noticed about you, first of all, you're incredibly well-spoken. You're so beautiful with your words, but you're also talking at a pace that is slow and controlled. And your confidence comes out with that. You're not getting, I'm sure if my next thought was, oh my gosh, I can't spend $250. I'm sure your next response would be, okay, let's, and it would and it's like go low and slow. And I just think that's really, really huge.
I saw it in the chat that someone absolutely loves to hear on a live dial.
Yes, that is a treat. That is a treat. She's very fun. Well,
so
so if you're getting on to hear her talk to 50 people that day, she won't, because the first person she talks to, she has made a lifelong friend and she's writing a policy for them. And not only that, but she's going to write a policy for their entire family, which brings me to my next question. Something that you are so good at is taking one lead and turning it into 4 or 5 policies. So yes, maybe that lead cost you $45 or $70, whatever, but you're taking that and you're turning it into so many policies, which I know is something that, we are guilty of not protecting everyone in the family. And so can you talk to us about that? Like, what's your approach for really mastering writing multiple policies from one lead?
Yeah. So when I speak with somebody, they've put in their request, right? Maybe they've said, I'm looking for $100,000. They're 62 years old. On my request, I'm never looking at that amount as the final amount or as ultimately even what they need. Sometimes they put that in, they have no idea what they're looking for. And so my job is to uncover that. And so quite frankly, I don't even go into options with them until we're about 10 or 15 minutes into our phone call. And that's because I'm asking them the priority for their coverage. So I want to know what made them want to request this coverage, right? Is it because they just purchased a home? Okay. Do you have any other policies in place currently? No. Okay. So then I know, okay, we're going to be looking at multiple policies here. If they're like, yeah, I have a whole life, but it's only about 20,000. Oftentimes, guys, people don't even know what they have in place, which is a little bit scary, right? Because when somebody gets a policy, you want to make sure that they are putting that in their will and that their beneficiary and emergency contacts know about this policy and have your number to be able to help them when that claim comes, right? That's huge. And so I do a lot of education about that. I help people. I refer Costco wills to people all the time because most people don't have living wills. It's really important, right? And so, when I am calling my client, I'm asking them the priority for their coverage. And then I'm also asking them, when you're looking at this realistically, if you don't have anything in place, okay, perfect. I'm going to look at some options. My role, and I educate them on my role. I work with a company called Symmetry. What that means is that I'm a broker that can work with, not for, over 30 different carriers. So my job is to evaluate kind of where we're at, what you're looking for, your priorities in this coverage, And from that, I am going to take that information and I am going to find you the carriers that we can apply for. And also from those carriers, who is ultimately coming in at the coverage amount that you're looking for with the best premium, because my goal is always to save my clients money where I can. Now, when it comes to writing multiple policies, what I have found is most people do not know that there are options outside of whole life and term policies. Most people do not know that there is a policy for if they're diagnosed with cancer. They don't know that there's a living policy available to them, and they also don't realize how inexpensive it is. And so I don't go into that in, you know, our first conversation unless it's a one call close and we're talking about all of it at the same time, but I will let them know, you know, outside of this policy, do you have any family history of anybody being diagnosed with cancer in your family? And usually it's a yes. And I'll say, okay, perfect. You know, I want you to know this is something you can kind of tuck away, or we can talk about it if it's important to you at this time. But we have a policy, it's through Mutual of Omaha. It's called Critical Advantage. This is a policy that's a living benefit policy, meaning if you are ever diagnosed, God forbid, with cancer, if you were to have a heart attack, a stroke, kidney issues, this policy would pay out upon diagnosis, which then in turn is going to allow you to cover medical bills. It's going to allow you to be able to continue to pay your mortgage. You'd probably need to take time off of work. Your spouse might need to take time off of work. It's going to help you guys in that time so that the financial burden is not there for you in the way it would be if you don't have this policy. And a lot of people, when they hear about that, they're like, well, tell me more. I mean, I just ran it for the guy before I got on this call. And it was like $40 or something like that for $30,000 in coverage. When they hear that, I mean, that's a Netflix subscription, right? That's super affordable. And then I also talk about accidental death a lot. And the reason why I like to do separate policies for those is because if you have one big policy, let's say within an American Amicable Term Made Simple, you can add that in, but let's say 5 years down the line, that becomes too expensive and they end up canceling the policy. Now they don't have anything. But if I've done a separate accidental policy for them, and it's like $17 a month, $30 a month, they're probably not going to cancel that. And that in turn, if they were to die because of an accident, that's going to pay out a lot of money to their family for very, very inexpensive monthly premiums. So I like to separate them so that I know that they're covered in multiple ways and I'm ultimately taking care of their family. And then when it comes to multiple people, I mean, for me, it's always asking the question, you know, if they're married, okay, does your spouse have any coverage? Okay. And if they're, you know, if they don't work, maybe it's a stay-at-home mom. Okay, well, what would that look like for you if Shelby passed away? Would you have to get help with the kids? Would you need to take time off of work? Do you have burial costs in place for that person? You know, so then we're talking about, you know, even if they're not bringing in an income, it doesn't mean that they don't need a policy. In fact, they absolutely need a policy, right? Grief is not a 1 month thing. It's not a 6 month thing. It is a lifelong thing. And people don't know what that's going to do to them until that happens, right? So we talk about that. And then I talk about their kids a lot too. I mean, I know Andrea Yarborough, she's on here. She's like the queen at this. Writing Advantage +2 Foresters policies on kids, because you can do a whole life cash accrual policy. You can pay it in full in 20 years. Now your child that is 5 years of age, by the time they're 25, they have a policy that is completely paid in full. And every single year, its death benefit is increasing But not only that, they have cash accrual that they can use as a loan at any time that will not affect the growth of the policy. And, you think about just their ability to be insured during that time too. I mean, that's huge. So, yeah, I don't know. That's probably more than what you guys were asking, but.
Well, no, that's
It
perfect.
was
I
so
mean,
good.
who like put a 3 in the chat if you just learned how to ask questions, really, really good questions. Cause Anna just asked like 10 really, really good questions. And when she does that, she starts to peel back the layers, right? They start to like her more and trust her more. And oh my gosh, she really cares because she does. And I just think that's so important. And then you're really curious on top of it. So no, I think that was so fantastic. And I know that you are like you have a priority of your daughter's soccer game. So I just really want to honor that. But before you go, you close a lot of appointments. So you book appointments, but you also, your close ratio and your issue rate is very, very good. So can you just give us like 1 or 2 tips on how you actually get them from, hey, these are the numbers, to now we're writing a policy, like something like a good transition to that?
Yeah, so ultimately, I don't use the word quote. If you use the word quote, I want you to take that out of your vocabulary like yesterday. Stop using that word, okay? You're giving them options. Options, okay? This is an option that we can consider. The only way for me to know that we can get this issued for you is to actually apply, okay? Once we apply, depending on the policy, we might know right then. That application is going to take about 15 to 20 minutes. Some of the carriers will take about 2 to 5 business days. And again, this option, we don't know that we're going to approve for it. Based on what you've shared with me, I believe we have a high chance of having this issued, but until we get that application in, we won't know. So our next step is to actually go through that process, okay? So let me just confirm, your first name is spelled da, 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 right? And I'm just in the application, I just go, right? Because I can quote all day, but a quote is nothing unless you do the application, because sometimes those quotes change too, based on their health class, right? So I'm going to give them the options and I'm going to tell them this is an option that's on the table, but until we actually do the application, we won't know. So that's our next step. Sound good? Perfect. And we just go into it.
Really good. My name is Jill Johnson.
Jill?
Yes, that's correct. No, so good. So good. You're just leading them into it because, otherwise it's just a hypothetical number. We really have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, Lindsay learned that, pivoting, on it. Thank you. I don't know if you've got to go. I want to also give Lindsay some time, but
I do.
that was amazing. You guys, could you
Thank
just
you.
everyone share
Real quick
a word
for
in the
Anna,
chat?
share a word. Yes.
Oh, you
Yeah.
guys are so kind.
It's so inspiring and just such an education. I mean, such an education for all of us. Just really, really incredible. So put 1 word in the chat just to cheer her on and thank her for being here. And we hope Ava wins her soccer game.
Thank you. Me too. And Lindsay, I'm gonna try and just like switch this over, and I won't be on camera, but I'll be listening in the car while we're driving.
That's so awesome. Well, we will introduce Lindsay because Lindsay is actually part of Anna's agency, which we are just so excited to even just know her. She came in like a spark, and Joe and I were like, who is this girl? We love her already. And then last night, like we got the best, like she FaceTimed us because she just had the most incredible night. So Joe, do you want to just mention her numbers really quick? And then we've just got
let's
some
go
quick questions
Lindsay
for
by
you.
the numbers. Does Lindsay know the numbers?
Yeah, Lindsay by the numbers.
I mean, this is, I've never experienced this before.
Okay. So Lindsay by the numbers. She has been in Symmetry 6 weeks today. To the day. She's been 6 weeks in. Written 8 apps, 7 of those apps on leads.
Yes.
For $12,778. Yeah. I mean, Lindsay was going crazy thinking she wasn't going to get SNA, and then I think she wrote $7,500 worth of applications yesterday. So yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Crazy. One of the things that Lindsay has done, and most agents don't do this. They really don't. She came in and she did not try to recreate the system. She came in and she's like, okay, what's my next step? And we told her, and then she came back and she's like, okay, what's next? And then we were on a Zoom with her, and I think I just popped down and it was really Joe and Anna, and I'm like, hi, and Lindsay's like, wait, there's leads. And literally while we're on the Zoom, Lindsay goes and buys $300 worth of leads or something. And I was
It
just
was
like,
like 400. Yeah. It was like, Joe was like, look, all of these B1s are available in New Jersey. And I'm like, okay, click.
click. And then she's like, I just bought them. And we're like, oh my goodness. Okay. And she did not have to figure everything out. She did not have to know about every policy. She did not have to know everything about everything. All she did was she did the next thing that we told her. And you guys, that is the key here. And that's why her numbers look this way. She wasn't in analysis paralysis for 6 weeks. She was doing the thing. So Lindsay, talk to us just about like what made you just do the next thing and like listen and just follow direction. But not only that, but like you're in the workroom every day, you're live dialing every day. I mean, I would, most people don't do that early on. So speak a little bit to that.
Sure, of course. Hi, guys. This is so weird. And they didn't prep me other than,
No.
hey,
Oh no.
you're available.
Get on this call.
I know. So, yeah, I remember being on that first call, the Zoom call, and I remember saying to you guys, look, my weakness is that I will get stuck in my head. I will research. I will want to know all the things. Like, I love that. I have an ADHD brain. I was a teacher beforehand, and I love to deep dive in stuff. And I will get lost in that. So when I said that, I remember Joe being like, well, here you go. This is what you do. It was like, you're going to do this, this, and this. And I just kept on asking clarifying questions. And I was like, okay, so you're saying I should do the switchboard training, do summit and do this. And they're like, yes.
She had it done the next day, by the way.
I was done the next day. I mean, I follow directions really well, right? But and maybe I've gotten to a place. So I'm 41. I have three kids. I've done my fair. I was a teacher beforehand, but I've done my fair share of direct sales and trying different things and even store side sales. And I think I've reached a point in my life where I was like, I'm just going to do the next thing. That's it. I'm just going to do the next thing. And when I get all up in my head, because we all are human, right? We're all human. We're going to have those days. I was sobbing on the phone with Jim the other day. I had a 40-minute conversation with Anna, which is also super important. Like, find a support squad that just will keep you moving, will hold the space for you and keep you moving. But I've gotten to a place where I just wanted simplicity. And I kept on listening. And I kept on listening. And I kept on listening. And every single person here who is doing big things has said the same exact thing, which is follow the system. Follow the system. The numbers will work for you. And trust. And that's it. Guys, my life is too complicated. My life is too complicated to make it anything other than that. And learning is inevitable. It's inevitable. No matter what, if you show up to the workroom and you listen to the live dials, if you do the trainings, if you, just follow the steps, learning is inevitable. So
what made you trust the leads? Because a lot of times that's hard for people, right? It's an investment and they're like, oh, I don't know if these leads are any good, even though the leaderboards show that they're good and people are writing business. Like, what made you really trust the leads?
You guys, I knew. I said this, I don't know. I don't remember if I said this to you guys or to Anna a couple weeks ago, but you guys made it very clear that the learning curve was steep. You guys made it very clear. And I went into this wholeheartedly believing that the first while here was going to suck and be hard. Not that that was a bad thing, because again, learning comes from that, right? But I think surrendering instead of resisting to the suck. So just I don't know. I didn't know, I guess, to trust the leads, but I'm not afraid of them because they're just humans. They're just like you and me. Like they're just people. And for me, I know a lot of you guys have given me like so many incredible compliments and support and all of the things in live dialing and whatnot. And people are like, how do you do it? Like how do you like, why are you so comfortable? How? And truly, and I wrote down here when Anna was talking too, because you brought this word up, Jill, curiosity. I firmly believe that in life, if you are curious about other people, that you'll be able to find some kernel, some nugget that you can connect to another human being. And it doesn't matter if they're, however old, it doesn't matter where they live. It doesn't matter what their life experience is. But if you stop for a moment and just listen, that's all that it is, So I didn't necessarily trust the leads, but I trusted you guys. And I trusted my own enjoyment of talking to people and wanting to learn and being curious. And that was really it. I think I texted you guys. I don't know if it was in our group chat, but there was one day and I was like, wow, I just had a really humbling experience. Like
It was definitely in our group.
Yeah, in our group chat.
I was like, humble pie.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh. And I mean, I consider myself, I'm grateful that I've had many, many amazing conversations. But I had one gentleman, I think he was a B3 lead. And, you follow the system, right? So like you do the double dial, you wait, like, analog lead, you do the double dial. Holy moly, did I get a talking to? He called me back from like 2 different numbers because at that point I had no idea on switchboard how to even answer the phone through switchboard. I can only make calls out. He was so nice. He was not mean. He did not yell, but it was humbling. It was humbling about not leaving a message. He was like, if you left me a message, I would have worked with you. And I was like, okay. Okay. Like, sure. Woo! And it shook me a little bit. And you just have to take it and acknowledge it. And I think the next week I was in the Ask the AO and I was like, Christina, do you leave messages? Because I'm great talking to people when they answer the phone, but the minute I have to leave a message, I get like all flustered and awkward and weird. And she said, Lindsay, just write it. Just write it down like a script. Oh, okay. So everybody has suggestions and everybody has supports, and ask the questions and be curious and just trust the process because it doesn't hurt so much, when you just trust the process. It doesn't hurt so much. You don't feel it as deeply, I think, when you treat it just like a job, right? You're showing up, like we're showing up to the workroom, and it's amazing to see everybody's faces. For me, that was a huge change. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. I was a teacher before that, so never really in a corporate setting, like very different. And knowing that in order to work this business, I have to dial the leads allowed me to take the emotion out of that piece of it.
So good.
That's really good. That right there, take the emotion out of it. So how quickly did you get to your 1,000 dials as a new agent?
I'm not even there yet. I'm
okay,
almost,
because I thought you were pretty close because we were tracking.
She was at 700 last week, I think.
Last week, and I was at 700. I haven't added up for this week yet because the week's not over. But by the end of this week, I'll have hit 1,000 dials. And
so you haven't quite gotten to your 1,000 dials yet, but I heard you wrote almost 13,000 in APV. in the 6 weeks you've been here. So I would say that the learning curve is very steep and it's very hard, and it, there can be a lot of emotion there. But gosh, that's a lot of families to protect. That's a lot of people to help. I would imagine your bank account looks a little bit different too.
I've never earned this in my adult life, ever. I mean, I was a teacher in New Jersey, well, in this country, teachers. I think I was bringing home, this is 10 years ago, 3,200 a month, like after taxes as a teacher.
That's pretty crazy. So I guess, something to kind of like think about this, like somebody put in there, like, I'm scared or whatnot. It's like, you just got to take there can't be any fear or any afraid.
No.
That person on the other end needs our help. And if you guys don't know my story, but I lost my husband, and we did have a policy, and I can't stress to y'all enough how important it is, because it could be me on the other end with 5 small children. And what if no one called us to put a policy in place? Like, what if that's that lead that you just got that you're afraid to pick up the phone and dial? Like, you can be scared, and like somebody put in the chat, like sweating. And I mean, I've literally been sitting through apps and I'm like, I did not know I could sweat there. Like, this is stressful. But like, once you kind of like get through that, and you do that, like these people, I say this all the time to Joe, I'm like, I love my clients. Like, I love this client. Like, they're just so amazing. And, you just get to the point where they become, friends. And so I really think like everything that you're doing, Lindsay, everything that I hear that you're doing is you're following the system. So you're not creating anything new or different. You're just doing what everyone is, who's gone before you and, has done, and it's working.
Yeah. And you'll really
go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The only thing that I have changed, and this again comes, I was an English teacher, an 8th grade English teacher, bunch of hormonal maniacs. But one of the things, and I did theater my whole life. So finding your voice is the key, right? So I follow the system, and I said this in the workroom the other day. I follow the system to a T, like to a T, but I am me when I make those calls. 100%. And you have to find your voice, or else it's not going to work. Because Jill, like you said, you love your clients, right? For me, I think I was also a mindset coach. I'm a certified mindset coach and hypnotherapy practitioner, and like EFT, like all the things. And so I trust the universe for the most part. You're going to find your people. If you project, you're going to attract the clients that you want to work with. You're not going to attract the people who are just total, whatevers. Be yourself. And I think the confidence in being yourself, I think that's probably part of why thus far I've had some pretty awesome conversations and success. And, it's being yourself. Like, I'm going to be like, hey, happy hump day. How are you? Because that's me. And I'm not really, I am not a low and slow talker, although I was a yoga teacher and I do teach meditation, and my voice changes when I do that. But I'm from New Jersey. We talk fast. I talk to other New Jersey people. Maybe if I talk to somebody who it was in a different state, but just make it you, because each of us has like this really, really cool kernel of awesome uniqueness inside of them. And like, that's what people are attracted to.
I love that. I love that. No, it's good. Let your own voice come out. Joe, what were you going to say?
I can't say anything now. We got to end on that. I mean, time's up, and literally we have to just end.
So good. I feel like we could keep going. Like we could just support it. But we'll just do
another call. The lucky thing is we get to talk to her all the time.
Yeah, you just have another great 6 weeks, and then we'll do this all again. But I hope you guys all got something from this. Put something in the chat that you gained tonight. We would love to see it. So good. I agree, Michelle. Just really, really good. Lindsay, thanks for sharing. Anna, I think you're still listening too. Just so good, you guys. If you take nothing else, just follow the system. Just follow what Jim teaches and coaches and your mentors coaching. It's so good, and you guys can do it. And you can totally change your life like Lindsay's done in 6 weeks. So it's incredible. So thanks for being on here tonight. we hope you all have an incredible rest of your week. Thanks,
Let's
guys.
go. Hey, Larson base, Larson team. Let's go out and kick butt. So when Jim comes home from Paris, he's got a good present waiting for him.
That's
So.
a really good idea. That's a really good idea. I love that.
Love
Bye,
you
guys.
all.
Bye.
Bye.